Welcome, thrill seekers, to Midnight Delight. Tonight we delve into the chilling, the macabre, and the downright terrifying. So dim the lights, lock your doors, and prepare to be haunted by the stories that will make your heart race and your skin crawl. Let's embrace the fear together as we explore these scary werewolf stories. Let's begin. Alright, folks, gather round. I've got a tale that'll chill you to the bone. Something that happened to me back when I was just starting out as an investigator. Names and places have been changed, but the fear, that's real. Let's dive in. My name's Jake, and back then I was what you might call a rookie in the world of paranormal investigations. I got this call from a friend, let's call him Mike. Mike was this seasoned guy, been in the game for years, but he'd gone missing while looking into a series of bizarre disappearances and animal attacks in a small forgotten town named Blackwood. So, I packed my gear, cameras, recorders, the works, and head out to Blackwood. The town's got this eerie vibe, like it's stuck in time, with fog that never seems to lift. First thing I do is visit the local sheriff, who looked like he's seen a ghost when I mentioned Mike. Mike was onto something big, the sheriff tells me, his voice low. People here don't talk much, but when they do, it's about the howling at night and the folks vanishing without a trace. I start where Mike last was, an old, decrepit cabin at the edge of the woods. The door creaks open like in those horror movies, dust dancing in the dim light. Inside, I find Mike's notes scattered around. He wrote about patterns, about how the attacks and disappearances spiked during the full moon. Now, I ain't one to jump to conclusions, but after reading that, my heart started beating a bit faster. That night, I decided to stake out in the woods. I set up my cameras, night vision on, and I wait. The forest is unnaturally quiet, like it's holding its breath. Then, around midnight, I hear it. A howl. But not like any wolf I've ever heard. This was deeper, more menacing. I follow the sound, my flashlight cutting through the darkness, and that's when I see it, or rather, him. A figure, hunched, moving with a speed no human could match. I freeze, my blood turning to ice. The figure stops, and in the moonlight, I see it turn. It was no man. Fur, claws, eyes that glowed with a feral light. A werewolf. I must have made a sound because it looked right at me. Those eyes, they weren't just hungry. They were intelligent, malicious. I ran, folks. I ain't ashamed to say. Ran like my life depended on it, because it did. Back at my car, my heart was pounding. I drove out of Blackwood like hell itself was on my tail. But the story doesn't end there. See, I got back, started going through Mike's notes again, and found something I missed. A name. A local who might know more about the curse of Blackwood. I return, not for bravery, but because I need to know, to close this chapter. I meet this old woman, Agnes, who lives just outside the town. She tells me about a curse, generations old, about a man who made a pact for power but got turned into a beast instead. Every generation, the curse claims a new soul, turning them when the moon's just right. Agnes gives me this old silver bullet. It's the only way, she says, her eyes filled with sorrow and fear. So, there I am, back in those woods. But this time, I'm the hunter. The night's cold, the kind that seeps into your bones. And then, there he is, the werewolf. But this time, I see something in its eyes when it spots me. Recognition, maybe even relief. I raise my gun, the silver bullet loaded. My hands are shaking, not from fear this time, but from the weight of what I'm about to do. The creature charges and I fire. The shot echoes like a thunderclap. The beast falls, and as it does, it transforms. It's Mike, my friend, the investigator, now at peace. I left Blackwood after that, never spoke of it until now. But every full moon I remember, and I wonder if the curse truly ended with Mike, or if somewhere out there, another is waiting for their turn in this endless cycle of horror. And that, my friends, is why I always say, some mysteries are better left unsolved. But if you ever find yourself in Blackwood, keep a silver bullet handy. You might just need it. Stay safe out there, and remember, not all howls are just the wind. Alright, gather round. But I warn you, this ain't a tale for the faint-hearted. I've lived a long life, seen things most folks wouldn't believe. But this one still haunts me. It's been years, but the memory's as fresh as yesterday. It was back in '67 when I was just a young man, not much older than some of you. Our town, Willow Creek, was quiet and peaceful. But that year, something changed. It started with whispers, folks talking about strange howls at night, livestock found torn apart like something out of a nightmare. Now, I was a skeptic, thought it was just coyotes or maybe a bear. But then, things got personal. My best friend Tom, he disappeared one night, gone without a trace. The whole town was in panic. Sheriff Johnson, he was a good man, tried to keep things calm, but you could see the fear in his eyes. He organized search parties, but all we found were tracks, massive paw prints, bigger than any animal I've seen. One night, after weeks of this, I was out with a few others, lanterns in hand, searching for Tom. The forest was thick, dark, and the air was heavy with a sense of dread. That's when we heard it. A howl. But not like any wolf. This was deep, guttural, filled with rage. We followed the sound, our hearts pounding, not sure if we were hunters or prey. Then we saw it. A creature standing on two legs, fur as dark as night, eyes glowing like embers. It was massive, towering over us. The fear, it's hard to describe. It wasn't just the sight of it. It was the feeling of being hunted. That thing looked at us, and in its eyes there was a hunger, but also something else. Something almost human. We ran, but not before it lunged. I felt its breath, hot and foul, as it swiped at us. One of us, old Mr. Peters, wasn't fast enough. His scream, I can still hear it. We made it back to town, but not all of us. The sheriff, he tried to organize a hunt, but who were we kidding? We were farmers, shopkeepers, not monster hunters. The next night it came to town. People barricaded their homes, but you could hear it. The snarling, the howls, the sounds of destruction. It was like the devil himself was loose. I remember hiding with my family, the house shaking, windows rattling. My little sister, she was crying and I was trying to be brave, but inside I was terrified. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The silence was deafening. We ventured out at dawn and the town was a mess. Buildings torn, blood on the streets, but no sign of the creature. We never found Tom, nor did we see that beast again. Some say it left, others whisper it's still out there waiting. The sheriff, he left not long after, couldn't handle the guilt or the fear. And me? I stayed. but I've never been the same. Every full moon I lock my doors, check the windows, and I remember. So there you have it. That's the story of Willow Creek's werewolf. I've told you now, but I wish I didn't have to. Some things are better left in the past, buried deep. But now you know. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be a bit more careful when you hear a howl in the night. Alright, let's dive into the woods with a tale that'll make you think twice before venturing out under a full moon. I've been a park ranger at Blackwood National Park for over a decade now. Most folks come here for the peace, the hiking trails, or maybe to catch a glimpse of wildlife. But there's something else in these woods, something I've only spoken about in hushed tones, if at all. It was late autumn, the kind where the leaves have all but fallen and the air bites with a chill that promises winter. I was on a routine patrol, checking for poachers or lost hikers. The park's vast, and even with all my years here, there are still places I've never set foot in. That night, I was near the old logging camp, a place locals avoid. It's said to be haunted, but I never really believed in ghosts. I believed in what I could see, touch, or track. The moon was full, casting eerie shadows through the trees. My flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, but it felt like the forest was swallowing the light. Then I heard something. It sounded like a howl, but not like any howl from a wolf that I've ever heard. It was deeper, almost human. It was a strange sound. I've never heard it again since then. I stopped, my heart pounding. My training told me to report back, but something, maybe curiosity or just plain stupidity, made me follow the sound. The deeper I went, the colder it got. Not just the air, but a bone-deep cold that made my skin crawl. And then I saw a figure, hunched, moving with unnatural speed. It stopped, turned, and those eyes, they weren't just glowing, they were burning with a feral intelligence. I ducked behind a tree, my breath fogging out in front of me. The creature sniffed the air, then moved off, but not before letting out another howl that seemed to echo through my very soul. I decided to track it, not for bravery, but because I needed to know. I followed at a distance, my flashlight off, guided only by the moonlight. The creature led me to an old cabin, one I knew was supposed to be abandoned. Peering through a broken window, I saw it, not just one, but several of them, in various stages of transformation. Some looked like men, others like beasts, and some were caught in between, their bodies contorting in ways that defied nature. One of them, still somewhat human, caught my scent. His eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment there was a flicker of recognition, of humanity. Then the beast took over. I ran, not just for my life, but for my sanity. The sounds of pursuit, the snapping of branches, and those howls, they chased me all the way back to my truck. I drove out of there, not stopping until I hit the town. I reported, of course, but what could I say? There are werewolves in Blackwood. They'd think I lost my mind. So I kept it to myself, watching the moon phases, avoiding the park on full moons, and warning hikers without giving them the real reason. But here's the thing. Every now and then I go back, not to hunt, but to watch, to understand. Because those eyes, they weren't just animal. There was pain, a curse, and maybe even a plea for help. And that's my story. Not one of bravery or heroism, but of a man who saw something he can't unsee. Something that changed how he looks at the world, especially under the light of a full moon. Stay safe out there. And all I can say is be careful, because we have no idea what kind of creatures lurk in the night. And so our journey through the haunted woods ends for tonight. But remember, the creatures of the night never truly sleep. They wait just beyond the edge of your vision for the next full moon. If you've enjoyed tonight's Tales of Terror, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more spine-chilling stories. Share these whispers of the dark with those brave enough to listen. Until our next encounter under the full moon-lit sky, keep your wits about you, and may your dreams be as delightful as the midnight hour. Good night, and may the darkness be kind to you.